Okay guys, let's begin. So, let's just have a open our notes book. I just want you to go to the front page of your notebook first. So, on the very front page of our notes book, where we have the checklist of the exercises that we're working through. So you'll remember we started with the stuff on linear equations. So we did that in sort of week 1 and maybe a little bit of week 2, a bit of a recap from year 10. Okay, then we've moved on to the textbook and we've been doing the textbook since then, chapter 1 and 3. Now, we've had a chat with Mrs. James yesterday. She's teaching the other 2 classes. And what we've decided is we're going to drop 3G.2, okay? The reason we're not going to do it is because it's expansion of perfect squares, and then it is also completing the square, which are 2 skills that we will learn in the next unit. So rather than doing them now, we thought we'd do that skill then. So we can cross off 3G2. We're not going to be tested on that. That will not pop up in our test. Circles in expanded form. You'll still do circles like we did yesterday. We just won't have to do them in an expanded form. Okay, so what we're up to today then, if we just frame where we're at with the course, it is week 5, Tuesday. This is our last lesson for the week. We've got sports day on Thursday and Friday, don't we? So this will be our first revision lesson. We'll come back Monday and Tuesday. We'll have 2 revision lessons there leading up to the test on Thursday. As far as the test goes, it'll go for the double lesson. You'll have your graphics calculator. So at that time, make sure you get here on time for the test. No 7 minutes late or anything. All right, so bring your graphics calculator. You're committed it. Make sure it's got batteries. And as far as a cheat sheet goes, we call it assistant notes. That is one single-sided A4 page of handwritten notes. So it must satisfy all of those criteria. You got one of them, it's only written on one side, it's an A4 page, and it has to be handwritten. You can't glue stuff to it, you can't print stuff off on it, it has to be handwritten. Okay, so what I want to take you through then is this checklist that I've handed out to you. So each test that we have, we'll have 3 tests. I will give you a checklist of the skills that we cover in the unit. Now what I would like to do is just draw this out and read through it for you. And the reason it's a bit of a checklist is it's for you to go through and go, what am I confident with? Tick it off. What do I need to work on? And because it's a big unit, what it allows us to do is localize where we need to dedicate our efforts. All right? Because if I just say to you, go revise, you'd be like, well, where do I start? What this allows us to do is to localize the place where we should start. What are the places we need to put our efforts towards? So we started with the linear equations booklet at the end, and if we just read through the skills there, we have find the distance between 2 coordinates, find the midpoint between 2 coordinates, find the slope of perpendicular and parallel lines, determine if a coordinate lies on the line, graph a line from its equation, and find the equation of a line from a graph, from coordinates and from other given information. So that's all from the linear equations component. Then we moved on to chapter 1, and we made a distinction in 1A between direct proportion, passes through 0, 0, and indirect proportion. We're plotting lines from a table of values. So one thing we can do, maybe as we're flicking through this, let's pull our notes book out and just draw out where those skills pop up. So in our notes book, can we turn to 1A, all right, which is where we had the question on Mario and Luigi. So let me find it. Here it is, linear relationships 1A. I'm going to put page numbers on it for next year. 1A, linear relationships. And so in chapter 1, that's where this skills checklist will correspond with, right? Distinction between direct and indirect proportion. So that's written right at the top of linear relationships here. 2 variables are linearly related if they're in a straight line. The variables are in direct proportion if it goes through 0, 0. All right, so direct proportion is a special property, right? And so you can see these skills are drawn out in the notes book. So probably the first thing you'll do, right, in a moment is sit down with your notes book, with your checklist, flick through, identify where the skills are occurring. They're all in order, right? So we're at chapter 1. Chapter 1 corresponds with 1A. Chapter 3 will correspond with 3. They're all in order, so you can go through and check off what you're confident with and so forth. And then if you're not sure about something, you can ask me specifically about that. Okay, we'll keep reading through our list. So we've got plot coordinates on a graph, determine point of intersections of lines, find the equation of reciprocal functions, so that's 1B, and then sketching the graphs of lines and inverse functions, that's 1C and D, relying particularly on our calculator. Okay, then we move on to chapter 3. We have the distinction between a function and a relation. Okay, that popped up yesterday when we were doing our recap, identifying functions via a vertical line test, using function notation. So f of 3 means we put the number 3 into the function. Composite functions, okay, f of g of x, when g of x is in the belly of f of x. Domain and range, we've got sign diagrams. And then we have translations. Given f of x, describe how a, b, c, and d transform the graph. Okay, so that was in 3F. Then we have the equation of a circle. Now notice the third one from the bottom says find the equation of a circle in expanded form. So that's from last year. We're not going to do that this year, so we can cross that skill off. You don't need to know that one. The third from the bottom, find the equation of a circle in expanded form. We have plot a circle on a Cartesian plane and determine if a coordinate lies in, on, or outside of the plane, outside of the circle. Okay, now as far as revision resources go, I'm pointing towards the chapter review set questions. So those are here. Now the chapter review set questions, if you look at the end of chapter 1, you'll see review set 1A. Maybe I can just show you guys that in the textbook. I think you guys haven't used the Hazy textbooks before, so I'll draw that out for you. Alright, so in our textbook, at the end of chapter 1, so it's on page 22, there's these blue boxes, review set 1A, alright, and review set 1B. These are revision questions from the whole chapter. Alright, so for review set 1A, I've got questions I recommend there. Review set 1B, review set 3A, review set 3B. So there's revision questions there. There's also the first practice test that I've given you today. Alright, so you've got a practice test there. Solutions for it are on the OneDrive. Remember, I've said in the first email that all electronic things will be put on the OneDrive. So you've got that link, you can click on there and access it. We also have a review here. This is a pretty thorough, comprehensive review. I'm in two minds about what we'll do with this. One option is we could spend most of today's lesson working through it together. Okay, so we're sort of doing the recap of the whole unit together, or you can dedicate your efforts there individually. What are people thinking? Do you guys want to do this together, or would you like to do it individually? So we'll just do a vote like we did yesterday. Who would like to do it together? Excellent. So we're going to work on that individually then. I did film this last year, so I will send a video of this for you to do, for you to check your answers with and so forth, but it will float around today. All right. So as far as where we're at for revision, let's come up with a few ideas about where you should dedicate your efforts first, the order in which you should do it. I think the first thing you should do is go through the skills checklist. Okay, so the skills checklist I've given to you, go through it with your notes book. Make sure you understand what each one means and speak to me, speak to your buddies if you're not sure what it means. Where can I find that? How do I do that skill again? Okay, so then we can really tick off what we're really confident with, maybe put a question mark next to ones that you want to focus on. So we're isolating what we need to practice. The second thing that we will definitely do is work through this comprehensive review on the back of your skills checklist. So I'm going to call that the comprehensive review. And that's a good summary, a bit like what we did yesterday. We went through that recap together. This is a really good summary of the skills that are present in this unit. Okay, so it summarizes all of them. I'll email a video about this for you guys. All right, so seeing as this is our last lesson, it is my request as a bare minimum, we come back next Monday having done that and done that. Okay, we dedicate our efforts there today. Following that, you have the practice test, and you have the review sets. All right. Following that, you can start to put your cheat sheet together. This is my advice. This is the order I think you should do it in. All right. If we're doing that first, it helps us to really find out what we need to work on, and then those are the kind of things that we can put more on our cheat sheet, the things that we're not very confident with. All right. Definitely comprehensive review gives us a good summary, a good sort of stretch of the brain about what the skills are that are in the test. Some people might want to write their cheat sheet before they do the practice test, then they can add to their practice test and so forth. So that's really up to you. So yeah, the order of these isn't, you can swap those if you like, I don't really care about that, but definitely today and before next week, that's where I want us to dedicate our efforts. Does that sound fair? Any questions about the test coming up, the skills checklist? All right, so what we should be doing, we should have our skills checklist out. Let's flick through our notes book, tick off what we're confident with, ask many questions, ask your buddies questions. What does this mean again?